Hey guys, Arctic Asian here. Hope you had a great weekend. Let's talk a little bit about something called nitric oxide. So in my research and obviously in my quest to look at how we can improve or slow down the aging of our bodies, the aging of our cells, what are some critical components that we need to look at? So briefly, let's talk a little bit about nitric oxide, what it is, what its role is in maintaining the integrity and the health of your cellular system. And so it is, it's actually a signaling molecule, and it is produced by something called the vascular endothelium. So that's the inner lining of your arterial walls, right? So there's muscle in there, and in the inner lining, that's where nitric oxide is actually produced. Nitric oxide is critical in several systems, actually. It's circulatory system, the immune system, the nervous system. So it wears many different hats, but is critical in maintaining the overall integrity and the health of all your cells. So it is part of its role, as it's produced in the vascular endothelium, is to relax the blood vessels. So it induces vasodilation, and in doing so helps to lower blood pressure. It helps extremity blood flow. So individuals, males that suffer from erectile dysfunction, obviously nitric oxide is plays a valuable role in inducing blood flow into the extremity. So reductions in nitric oxide or deficiencies in nitric oxide are linked to, obviously, ED, increased blood pressure or hypertension, increased insulin resistance, so type 2 diabetes. There are roles there. Obviously, atherosclerosis, the development of plaque in the coronary arteries, which is obviously has a direct risk of coronary artery disease and heart issues. So, like I said, it wears many hats. Immune deficiencies, nitric oxide helps to stimulate certain elements that modulate and mitigate immune function. Sources of nitric oxide, right? You actually have enzymes in your mouth, salivary enzymes, that when you eat foods rich in nitrates, so those could be dark leafy green vegetables like spinach, kale, beetroot or beets, garlic, spinach, right? All these foods are high nitrate containing foods. When you have a sufficient and adequate what's called oral microbiome, so you have a microbiome, right? All the probiotic elements that reside within your gastrointestinal system that obviously we know are critical to health. Well, you also have a microbiome in your mouth called the oral microbiome. And it's necessary to have a healthy balance of bugs in your mouth because they will convert nitrate into nitric acid, right? As it passage of food through your oral microbiome and then into your gut. So it's critical to have a healthy bacterial population. One of the critical things that are causing deficiencies in oral microbiome would be things like mouthwash. So if you're using mouthwash, I would encourage you to not use mouthwash. Certainly, toothpaste, anything containing fluoride, those things disrupt not only the oral microbiome, right? Fluoride has many other toxicities that's related to the thyroid gland and things like that. So I would encourage you to look at what you're putting in, obviously using for oral hygiene, toothpaste, mouthwash. Make sure that you're maintaining some level of health as it pertains to establishing and maintaining a healthy oral microbiome, right? So exercise obviously is another way to boost nitric oxide levels, and then red light and infrared light therapy. So right here we have a Sonopod, Hyper-T Pro Sauna, and I encourage individuals and patients, clients to get into that regularly for mitochondrial health, and obviously red light, particularly 670 nanometer wavelength of light, which is red light, helps to induce production of nitric oxide. So again, it's a critical element in maintaining cellular health, one of the things that nitric oxide will do at a cellular level is it helps to prevent something called cellular senescence. So senescent cells, obviously all your cells have some level of a finite lifetime, but they do replicate, and each time they replicate, that can induce a little bit of damage, right? Sort of like making a copy of a copy of a copy. Each copy is diminished in quality. So when your cells replicate, the same thing happens. Now, a lot of the quality of cellular replication has to do with lifestyle, your diet, exercise, sleep, health of your nervous system, immune system, right? So nitric oxide obviously is a critical element in that whole cycle and component, as it's when you have adequate amounts, it helps to prevent the accumulation of senescent cells. When you get too many senescent cells, think of senescent cells as a cell that is old and somewhat dysfunctional. So it's an older cell, doesn't really have a lot of function. It takes up space. It increases your risk of cancer. Senescent cells are very pro-inflammatory, so they induce a lot of inflammation. So again, the more senescent cells you have, the more it's going to ravage your body, cause breakdown, increase oxidative stress, increase insulin resistance, right? Inflammatory problems like joint pain, any kind of arthritic developments, and just general degenerative changes will arise as you get more and more senescent cells. So obviously there are things, and I'm not going to get into things like autophagy and mitophagy, but autophagy, for example, when you go through periods of intermittent fasting, your body has the capability of recycling cells, right? And it does so generally to produce energy. So in the absence of caloric intake, maybe you go 18, 19, 20 hours without food, our body has been very well prepared for states of intermittent fasting because humanity wasn't, our evolution prepared us for deprivation of food, right? We didn't live generally, right? We didn't evolve in an environment where food was abundant. So our body has backup mechanisms to provide us with energy and to obviously keep our systems running in the event we're not maintaining adequate caloric intake. So that process is called autophagy. It's recycling old cells. Recycles senescent cells, meaning it takes the senescent cells and breaks it apart and then uses the pieces of the senescent cells to make more cells, right, to provide us with energy in the absence of adequate caloric intake. So, but to circle back around to nitric oxide, right, one of the benefits of nitric oxide, it was help reduce the accumulation of senescent cells, thereby reducing oxidative stress and generally reducing the aging process as we see it. So, yeah, wanted to share that tidbit with you. Make sure you're getting an adequate intake of nitrate consuming foods, healthy oral microbiome, exercising, getting some regular exposure to red light and near infrared light. These are all ways to help maintain adequate and healthy nitric oxide levels, which obviously therefore will slow down aging and degenerative processes. So have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.